Hello, my name is Chris Massa, and I'm the Director of Music and Worship Arts here at Church of the Ascension. This Lent, we will be singing the Psalms together during our worship services. More specifically, we will be chanting them using something called Anglican Chant. Now, over the course of this video, I hope to accomplish three things. First, I will briefly describe what Anglican Chant is. Second, I'll give a brief, hopefully painless tutorial on how to sing it. And let me just interject that even if you don't read music, I think you'll find it quite manageable. Third, I hope to communicate some of why I think it is worth chanting the Psalms together, maybe even to the point of making you excited to be a part of it. But first, let's talk about what Anglican Chant is. The Psalter, or Book of Psalms, has often been referred to as the songbook of the Bible, which is, I think, as it should be. The Psalms were written to be sung, after all, and some even include specific musical instructions. And yet, in many church traditions, the Psalms are read much more often than they are sung together. This isn't a bad thing per se, far be it from me to suggest that reading Scripture is ever a bad thing, but I do think by doing so, we miss out on some of what the Psalms have to offer. More on that a little bit later. Now, there are several ways of singing the Psalms. One of these, and perhaps the most well-known, is plain chant, also known as Gregorian chant. Simply stated, this is where everyone sings the same thing in unison. There are no harmonies and no accompaniment. It's just voices, and it's, I think, some of the most beautiful music ever written. The Psalms can also be sung responsively, where most of the verses are sung by a soloist, and the congregation responds by singing a refrain or antiphon. And this is the way the Psalms have frequently been sung here at Ascension. The Psalms can also be sung using metrical settings, which is where the text of the Psalms are paraphrased to fit the cadence of hymn tunes. This is a very common way of singing the Psalms. Many familiar hymns are, in fact, metrical settings of the Psalms, and it may be particularly familiar to many who worship in the Reformed Presbyterian tradition. Finally, there is Anglican Chant, which is sort of a mashup of all of these. Similar to metrical settings, they are sung in four-part harmony. But similar to plain chant or responsive settings, the psalm is sung word for word rather than paraphrased. I should say, I'm sure there are also other ways of singing the psalms. These are just four of the most common. My point is, there is no one way of singing the psalms, and I don't think one way is intrinsically better than any other. But I do think Anglican Chant is a particularly beautiful and powerful way of singing the Psalms. And as the name suggests, it comes out of our own Anglican tradition. If you're going to sing a psalm, you need two things. You need the words of a psalm, and you need music to sing it to. Let's start with the words. Here is the 9th verse of Psalm 91, which we'll be chanting on the first Sunday of Lent. At the risk of stating the obvious, it can be read in more than one way. For example, if you were just reading it out loud by yourself, you might read it fairly quickly. Because you have said, "The Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold." But if we were reading this psalm during a worship service, we would read it quite differently. We would read it slower, more intentionally, and we'd leave more space between some words. It might sound more like this. Because you have said, "The Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold." Notice that I paused at the midpoint of the verse, marked by the asterisk. I also paused at the comma. I'll read it through a few times again, and I'd encourage you to say it with me. Because you have said, "The Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold." Because you have said, "The Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold." Because you have said, "The Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold." In a way, chant isn't singing so much as heightened speech, which means that if we're going to chant a psalm together, the first step is to be able to read it together. Also, chanting isn't rhythmic in the same way most songs or even hymns are rhythmic. The rhythm of the words that we sing really follows our speech rhythm. Anyway, now that we've talked about the words, let's look at the music. The music for Anglican chant is called a tone. And an Anglican chant tone is made up of 10 chords. What you see is one such tone. It is in fact the tone for Psalm 91. But let's not worry about that too much right now. If you read music, you'll see that the tone is arranged in 2 groups, divided by a double bar line. Without much ado, let's sing the tone together. For now, let's all sing the melody, or soprano part, and we'll sing it on Lu. I'll sing it through a few times, so listen to me the first time, then feel free to join in. Lu, 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 lu. Lu, 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 lu. Lu, 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 lu. I'm sure you noticed that, as we sang it, I took the music away. That's because when we're chanting, it's really ideal that you try to memorize the tone, even if you are comfortable reading music. And since the tones are so short, I hope that won't pose too much of an issue. Anyway, now let's look at the words and the music together. While the words are the same thing that we read together earlier, they have now been pointed for chanting. That's what the lines and the dots are called, pointing. If you know how to read music, you may want to pause the video and take a moment to see how the words and music line up. If you can't read music, or if you can but don't mind spoilers, here you go. The vertical lines in the words correspond to the vertical lines, or bar lines, in the music. And the asterisk at the midpoint of the words correspond to the 2 vertical lines, or double bar line, in the middle of the music. When there is a dot in the text, that means you go to the next note in the measure. Now that may sound complicated if you're not used to reading music, but what it really comes down to is that if there's a mark in the text, either a dot or a line, there's a really good chance you're going to go to the next note of the tone. Now I'm going to play the tone again. Then I'm going to sing this verse a few times so you can hear how the words and music work together. When you feel comfortable, please join in and sing with me. Because you have said, the Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold. Because you have said, the Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold. Because you have said, the Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold. Because you have said, the Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold. Because you have said, the Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold. Because you have said, the Lord is my refuge, and have made the Most High your stronghold. Okay, the next step is that we take what we just did and apply it to the whole psalm, or at least a larger portion of the psalm. So here we go. I'm going to chant Psalm 91, verses 9 through 16, and you're welcome to join me. And this should go without saying, but feel free to try this more than once. While I don't think this type of chanting is particularly difficult, I do think there's a bit of a learning curve. So there's nothing wrong with doing this a few times to get more comfortable with it. his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. They shall bear you in their hands, that you hurt not your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample under your feet. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will lift him up, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will hear him. Indeed, I am with him in trouble. I will deliver him and bring him honor. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Okay, so here's a question for you. Can you recite the 10 Commandments in order? Well, let's make this even more fun. What is the 4th commandment? Is it about not taking the Lord's name in vain? Or is it about not coveting? Actually, that's a trick question. The 4th commandment is the one about keeping the Sabbath. Sorry. Okay, now, how many verses of Hey Jude do you know by heart? Or if you want to keep this on more of a spiritual plane, how many verses of Amazing Grace do you know? Or think of one of your favorite songs, whatever it is. Be honest with yourself. Which do you know better, the song lyrics or the 10 Commandments? I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Really, I'm not. But I do have a point to make. We remember words better when we sing them than when we just try to memorize them. At least, that's how it is for a vast majority of people. And that's why we, teach kids to sing the ABCs, because that's how they will remember them. That's how they'll really learn them. And it's not just about memorization. We engage with words differently when we sing them than when we don't. We internalize them. And chanting the Psalms, it's not just about singing music, and it's not even just about making a beautiful noise together, although it certainly is about that. It's about letting the Psalms become a part of our lives, getting them in our blood, if you will. It's about letting them form us. And the fact that we get to do this as a congregation, I think is a gift. And who knows what, impact this could have on our lives, individually or as a church. When we think back to when Jesus was in the desert being tempted by Satan, he responded with Scripture. He responded with Psalms. I kind of love to think that when Jesus was, being tempted by Satan, he responded with song lyrics. Anyway, I hope you have found this video helpful. And I hope that this has given you some tools to be able to engage with this style of singing, this style of worship. And I hope it blesses you. Hello again. So in the process of editing this video, there are 2 things that I realized I forgot to say yesterday when I recorded most of it. So even though I'm in a different room and wearing a different shirt, I will take the opportunity to say them now. The first is that, as I mentioned this earlier in the video, Anglican Chant is usually sung in 4-part harmonies. But in the video, I talked about singing it in unison. I was doing that really for the sake of teaching, but they will be sung in 4-part harmonies during our worship services. There will be 4-part harmonies written in the bulletin, and if you attend the 11 o'clock service, you will hear the choir sing them in 4-part harmonies. So if you are a person who usually sings alto, tenor, or bass, please listen to what's going on, follow the music, and feel free to sing whatever part you like. The second thing that I forgot to mention is that there are many books and resources available, just full of Anglican chant tones. But I've decided not to use any of them during this season. All of the tones that we will sing in our worship services were actually written by composers within Ascension, specifically Emily Meisner, Andy Cohn, and myself. So I do want to take this opportunity to thank Emily and Andy for writing such beautiful tones and for giving us the opportunity to sing them together. So anyway, that should about cover it now. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help, and I hope this has been a blessing to you. I'll see you soon.